Good evening. This is College Football 134. Tonight is the national championship game, Ohio State versus Notre Dame. That is Andrew Caley. I am Douglas Farmer. And Andrew, if nothing else, let's manifest a competitive second half tonight on this wonderful Monday we've been waiting for all season.
We deserve that, don't we? We deserve a competitive national championship. It's been a little bit since we've had one, so
I always push back on that because that first Georgia title, Alabama was driving down the field down 8 with less than 2 minutes to go when that pick six made it look on the final scoreboard more lopsided. Why do I remember that so distinctly? Because I had that big Georgia ticket and I had attempted a middle of Alabama plus 3.5. I was like, oh, Alabama, go score this touchdown, missed 2-point conversion. I will take all of the winnings. Instead, I had to settle for only the big future ticket.
I'll say. You would have lost that futures ticket if Jamison Williams does not get hurt. Jamison Williams was cooking Georgia in that game.
Friend of the show, Richard Johnson, at Split Zone Duo, has been using a line all week that I will use here. If ifs were fifths, we'd all be
I'm sad we got that. I was jamming. We started up here. At the last time we hear that music, the 134 music for the college football season, man, oh, what a ride.
What a ride indeed. As we get rolling here, let's hit the podcast verbs first and foremost. Like and subscribe to the Covers YouTube channel. Our greatest love might be concluding tonight, but Covers will continue to kick out your betting content all spring long. Throw your comments into the chat with your best bets for tonight. And because key phrase here, something to remember, this is supposed to be fun. Tell us how you're watching the national championship, who you're watching it with. These are the things we care about as much, if not more, than the gambling. Speaking of the gambling, though, Andrew, Ohio State remains an 8.5-point favorite. There were some neg 8 during the week. Those have returned to some neg 9 today. 8.5 is the consensus number. Total of 45.5. We should acknowledge that and then recap our bets from last Tuesday. We already previewed most of this once because we each made 6 bets, agreeing on 2 of them. And somehow that rogue 9.5 at Bet Rivers, it's still there. It still exists. I don't understand. I appreciate it. It's one of the reasons I do like having Bet Rivers as an option. We both bet that plus 9.5 because we didn't think it would last. Marcus Freeman has already faced Ohio State twice. In both those games, he shrank the game, shortened it up because he knew he had a talent deficit. Expect the same thing tonight, which for me, that was the impetus to taking the plus 9.5 all along. Notre Dame's roster is closer to Ohio State's now. Its coordinators are better than they used to be. This should be a tight game in that respect.
I think so too. And if you are this is why we tell you guys to shop around, right? Like if you're looking for Ohio State, go grab yourself the 8.5. I don't think you're getting any better than the 8.5 at this point. But if you're on Notre Dame, look for that 9. Find that 9.5. If you got Bet Rivers, maybe. Do you think we'll see any more 9.5s? Will that be just a rogue 9.5? Do you think we see a wave?
It's been a rogue 9.5 all week.
Yeah, but so we've got some 9s out there now, right? I think Bet365 has a 9.
Caesars has a 9 available. Caesars has a 9. Bet Rivers is on its own at ESPN as a 9. Bet Rivers is on its own at 9.5. I don't know if any 8s exist anymore. I do not believe any 8s exist anymore for the Ohio State backers.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I think at this point, we're going to see the recency bias bettors coming in. This is the people who are like, oh, I need to make my national championship bet now, a few hours before kickoff. And most people are going to say those people are the people who are like, oh, dang, Ohio State has been steamrolling people in the playoff and are going to maybe we see a little bit more movement tonight. Maybe I wouldn't be shocked if one of these lines goes to 9.5, but
it's possible. I'm not going to expect it.
I think it's more likely than going the other way.
I'd like to think it's cooked. I'd like to think we have our final product on the odds board at that 9.5, which, yes, producer Jameson, we agreed on. You know what else we agreed on last week? The Andrew Caley SEC Memorial first half under of the week, under 23.5, right?
We did. And the reason for that is because Notre Dame has the best pass defense in the country, and they have the ability to shut down this electric Ohio State passing game led by Jeremiah Smith. But at the same time, they're willing to give up runs by taking that pass game away. That's just what they're going to do. And Ohio State has 2 excellent running backs in Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, and they're going to get a bunch of carries for 5-6 yards in this one. Irish are a run-first team going against an elite Buckeyes defense. Running the football, good defense. Sounds like an under to me. First half specifically because these games are more scripted. You also noted that Marcus Freeman will try to shorten this game. He knows that if Notre Dame is going to pull off this upset, we got to limit the possessions in this football game. So we're not going to make mistakes. We're going to stick to that script, and that is running the football. So that's why we're on the first half under. Things in the second half can get a little like we saw it in the Irish's last game. We cashed that first half under, but then the full game over hit. So that is very much on the board in college football, and I feel a little safer with the first half as opposed to the full game.
One thing I am very curious to see today is how is Notre Dame going? What wrinkle is defensive coordinator Al Golden going to throw at Ohio State? And I keep thinking, and this is a little dramatic, but I really want him to go Rocky 2. Notre Dame plays so much man defense. They don't blitz. They do blitz more than most people because they can play so much man defense. You play man against Ohio State, you are really hanging it out there in a way that's going to be uncomfortable. I want to see Notre Dame go Rocky 2, fight right-handed with a zone defense for the first half until Mickey yells now at halftime, and we can see how that's my hope. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I think that'd make that first half really intriguing. But let's keep running through our bets from last week. I took the Riley Leonard anytime touchdown at plus 140. This is intended to help camouflage Notre Dame's beat-up offensive line. Now, it's possible that right guard Rocco Spindler's ankle does not betray him tonight, and it's possible left tackle Charles Jagus feels comfortable immediately in his first start of the season. But those are 2 big possibles. More likely, Notre Dame needs to find ways to shore up its offensive line against the best defensive line in college football. Near the goal line, one way of doing that is keeping the ball in Riley Leonard's hands and letting the running backs block. He has scored 13 times on touchdown runs inside the red zone this season. He has 39 red zone carries inside the 20, 8 more than even Jeremiah Love has. If Notre Dame gets down to where it matters most, Riley Leonard's the most likely scorer.
As much as I want you to win all of your bets, Douglas, I want to win my bets just a little bit more. So I'm hoping Riley Leonard hands that ball off to Jeremiah Love because I took him for an anytime touchdown at plus 145 last week. He's been the guy. He has 19 total touchdowns this year. He's scored in all but one of the Irish's games this season. That was, I believe, the
Georgia.
It was the Georgia game because the only offensive touchdon was that one passing touchdown to Bo Collins, I believe. We'll get to him a bit later too. But Jeremiah Love, man, he's just a beast there. They've obviously kept this injury close to the vest this week. He's going to be on the field. They're going to hand him the ball. I think he's going to be successful. He's proven that he can run through good run defense. Like, look at that touchdown he had in the last game against Penn. Like, that is the type of heart you want to see in this situation. And it just feels a little bit mispriced to me at this price. And I've seen it still plus 125. I was early in the week. I told you when we first started looking at this national championship bets, hey, that Jeremiah Love touchdown is plus 110. And I was expecting to see closer to even money, maybe plus 105, but plus 110 now, plus as high as plus 145. I'm seeing plus 125, plus 130 now. I still like it at that price. I think it's mispriced, and that's why I like it so much.
I don't think it's mispriced because you got to remember the total. The total is 45.5. If you want to do the math of spread plus total, you're looking at what, a 27-18 game. That's 2 Notre Dame touchdowns. That's why I think every Notre Dame prop has to be.
If they're scoring, he's scoring. That's what we're saying.
No. If they're scoring, Riley Leonard's scoring.
Okay, let's move on. What's your next bet?
Well, it's another Notre Dame piece of the backfield. This one's a value play. This one is obviously far less likely, but from last week, I took Aeneas Williams in anytime touchdown at plus 450. If he is involved, as he was in the second half of the Orange Bowl, he is going to – this number is too high. Ohio State gave up 42 yards on 6 catches to Wisner, 59 yards and 2 touchdowns on 5 catches to Jaden Blue. Ohio State is not equipped to defend running backs out of the backfield because Jim Knowles' defense is so aggressive. So if Aeneas Williams is in and part of that passing game like he was 10 days ago, there becomes value in this. This is largely a value bet out of me, whereas when I take his 24.5 receiving yards, I take the over. That is me saying if Notre Dame falls behind, they're going to need to go to him as much as anybody else out of the backfield because Jadarian Price is not as good of a pass catcher, and Jeremiah Love will be therefore need to split time with Aeneas Williams.
We saw what Jaden Blue did against Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, and this isn't a bet for me, but like when you made this bet last week, and I was looking at stuff today to add to the show, I made a little sprinkle on Aeneas Williams to score the first touchdown of the game at plus 2,500. So,
there are worse things to do with a.
I think there's crazier bets I've made in my life than that one. So yeah, I've got a trio here. I'm going to go through my last three bets is kind of a trio here.
Not your last three bets. Your last three bets from last week. We have more best bets coming, folks. Don't leave.
Stay, please. Like and subscribe. Carnell Tate over 3.5 receptions, plus 130. That number is still out there, I believe. Travion Henderson over 52.5 rushing yards. That has bumped up a few yards, so it's about 57.5 now, I believe. Will Howard over 0.5 interceptions. Like it may seem all generally, besides the Howard interceptions, that these are pro Ohio State bets, but these are actually pro Notre Dame pass defense bets. The Irish, like I said, leads the nation in pass evens, first in EPA per dropback and defensive success rate on dropbacks. And I expect them to do exactly what Texas did to Jeremiah Smith. They're going to say, anybody but you, Jeremiah. We're going to take you away. We're going to double team you. Maybe we'll blank you with a triple team every now and then just to make sure you're not the guy beating us. And that means more running the football and more looks for guys like Tate. And that resulted in 9 targets for Tate in the Cotton Bowl. He got 7 of them. I think 4 catches is very much on the table for him in this one. And I really like Henderson. We'll get into Henderson a bit more later as well. Against a Irish run defense that, like we said, they're not going to give up the explosive play, but they will be happy to give you 4, 5, 6 yards every now and then. And the Will Howard one, Will Howard is just, everyone's going to call me a Will Howard hater because it's been all season at this point. But at least he's good for at least one throw a game where you're like, what the hell are you thinking Will Howard throws? Like, and he's got interception in 9 of his last 13 games. Notre Dame 5th in the nation in takeaways per game versus FBS opponents. So I like the interception here for Will Howard as well.
You timed that out perfectly. I had sirens going by my place, kept myself on mute, and they are now passed. Well done. You had no way of knowing. I agree on the Will Howard interceptions, particularly if Notre Dame can keep this close. And now that's pretty obvious. Notre Dame can make Ohio State stress a little bit. Ohio State's going to have to keep the ball in the air. And as I pointed out with Drew Aller going into the Penn State game, quarterbacks who need to throw to win the game are more likely to even keep a lead are more likely to throw interceptions. Proved its case a couple times to Drew Aller, even if there was only one officially in the box score. And similar trends are the case with Will Howard, who, let's note, throws more interceptions than Drew Aller does. And so if Notre Dame can make Will Howard have to work, they can keep this within a possession, he is that much more likely to turn this game on its head, and then Irish fans can start to believe in something. Our last bet from last week, and we're just recapping these for those who may have missed our Tuesday show. That was always our strong suit this season. I also had Mitchell Evans under 34.5 receiving yards. That is, again, based on Notre Dame's beat-up offensive line. Now, maybe Notre Dame's offensive line is going to wow us all, but this is the best defensive line in the country. It's going to have its work cut out for it. When Notre Dame was in a similar position going to Texas A&M to start the season, new left tackle then was replacing our now left tackle now. The tight ends stayed attached to the line far more often. 3 tight ends combined to take 77 snaps. 39 of those were within the line. And another, 32 were in the slot. They were not lining up wide because they could just chip away at Nick Scroton and the A&M offensive line. Those 3 tight ends combined for 2 catches, 25 yards on 4 targets that night. A similar item might be necessary to hold back Jack Sawyer and JTT tonight to keep Notre Dame and Riley Leonard upright.
Yeah, I like that game plan thinking right there. with a lot of our bets seem to be aligned on whether or not Notre Dame's pass defense is what we think they are, right?
Do I need to say what I've been saying for all these weeks? I don't have the copy in the outline today. Let's see if I can do it off memory. Nobody has thrown on Notre Dame this season. Northern Illinois got a couple of chunk plays before Notre Dame's defense bothered to show up. But then Louisville, that's a top 15 passing offense in the country by EPA, averaged 3 yards fewer per attempt in that game than they did the rest of the season. USC, before garbage time, was in trouble throwing the ball, and then in garbage time threw 2 pick sixes. Indiana, Penn State, Georgia, do I need to explain how, Indiana, 3 points until garbage time? Georgia, aside from 167-yard completion, we're really going off the top of my head here. Gunnar Stockton averaged 5.6 yards per pass attempt, which might sound good. You need to be north of 7 at this caliber of football. And Penn State, I believe, correct me if this stat is wrong, you caught as many passes in the Orange Bowl as Penn State's receivers did?
Yes, I did. I was trained all week for that one, buddy. It's a lot of there's people out there too just saying that Notre Dame haven't played anybody in terms of passing defense, and you just proved right there that they actually have. So,
and yes, those last 3, Penn State, Indiana, and Georgia, those were all top 10 passing offenses this year in terms of EPA. And EPA is going to be a far better stat in that conversation than just raw yardage or even quarterback rating, because quarterback rating is its own mess. I will also point out, Bobby, you have been our most frequent commenter, and we appreciate you for it. Our game script is also that Notre Dame keeps it close enough that then they have to pass. We are saying Notre Dame shortens this game. Ohio State's going to try to break it open, and that puts the ball in the air to Cardinal Tate. That is how Will Howard throws an interception. They are very much intertwined. We are not necessarily agreeing on our bets, but we are agreeing on our expected game state.
It's what we've seen, right? Ohio State has looked like the best team in the country, but they came across a really good Texas team in their last game, and they gave them some problems, and people who are paying attention know that game wasn't a 28-14 final. That's probably realistically a 3-point finish, right? Take away that screen pass at the end of the first half, that fumble return for a touchdown we're expecting that game to be tied at first and goal, right? We are. And then either that or we crush all of our under bets in overtime there in that game. But I think that Notre Dame has a very comparable defense. The pass defense is arguably better. The front 7 is at least in the conversation with Texas. They're capable of doing what we think they are capable of. That's why we're making these bets the way we are.
Let's start now. We have gone through many of what we consider to be keys to the game: pass defense, Notre Dame's beat offensive line. I do have 2 more that I want to acknowledge, and one of them is third down successes. If you go look at the last decade of title games, the 14 playoff era, 3 underdogs have won outright. Those 3 underdogs all had 2 things in common: not turnover margin, not yards per play. All 3 of them won penalties and 1 third down conversions. Notre Dame needs to win them tonight in order to keep Ohio State off the field. Notre Dame needs to drag this game out, and part of the way to do that is, you just run for 4 yards at a time and convert your third downs. Lengthen your possessions. The other way to slow this game down is to limit explosive plays. 15 games this season, Notre Dame has given up 15 plays of 30 or more yards. I was texting with a Notre Dame beat writer today, and what I said to him was, if that ends up 16 games and only 17 plays of 30 or more yards, I think Notre Dame wins this game. How many times can they make Ohio State go 75 yards over 12 plays? Now, if I'm thinking Notre Dame can make Ohio State go 75 yards over 12 plays, then the question is, who scores for Ohio State in the red zone? It's Riley Leonard more than Jeremiah Love. It's Quinshon Judkins more than TreVeyon Henderson. Judkins has taken 31 red zone carries for 9 touchdowns this season. TreVeyon Henderson has taken 27 for 6. When they get inside the 5, they go to Quinshon Judkins because he is that bigger back. So I'm taking him as an anytime touchdown, plus 100 at Bet Rivers. It's the fact that Notre Dame is going to sell out to stop the explosives like they have all season. And if they can sell out to stop the explosives, Ohio State's going to end up with the 1st and 10 on the 12-yard line, and that might lead to 5 carries for Quinshon Judkins.
It could, yeah. And they've proven that if they can stay out of their own heads and they are content with those 5 and 6 yard carries, they can be successful. Obviously, those backs are great, and despite those injuries to their offensive line, that's still a very good group there for the Buckeyes.
Do you have any other particular keys that you are looking for tonight that maybe they aren't actionable, but that is something that if you see it in the first quarter, you're going to go, oh, this game's going to go that way?
One, I want to see how Riley Leonard reacts to the blitz. Like, I think that's super important. Jim Knowles has obviously gotten really exotic and messed up a bunch of guys' seasons. Curtis Rourke is one that comes to mind immediately when they start blitzing guys. I do believe that Ohio State is going to sell out to stop the run game for Ohio State. And they're going to say, "Hey, Riley Leonard, let's see if you can beat you with your arm." I have a bet for that a little bit later, and I still think that he is a capable thrower, and he's proven that he's able to escape out the pocket and move the ball downfield. We've seen him make some big throws in the playoffs, and I think if he can do that, if he can handle that pressure and get creative with his legs and extend plays, then Notre Dame is going to have a chance. The other thing we have to look at is the demeanor of Will Howard and Ryan Day. I think like those are the guys, right?
I was wondering which one of us would bring up Ryan Day.
Like Ryan Day, all the credit in the world.
Some of the credit in the world.
Well, he gets credit for hiring Jim Knowles and Chip Kelly, like right? You think? I guess.
Yes.
And like Will Howard has looked really good in some games. He's been efficient. He hasn't turned over the ball sometimes, but like every now and then, like, he just doesn't have that. He's not the reason Ohio State is winning football games, and he can be the reason that they do lose a football game. So I said, can they stay within themselves here? That kind of applies to Ryan Day and Will Howard as well. Can they be satisfied with taking what Notre Dame gives them? Like, if are you happy giving Carnell Tate 9 targets in this game if you think it's going to win you the football game? Or are you going to get frustrated and make mistakes? Notre Dame is hoping that's obviously the latter, but we'll just have to wait and see, because we've seen in the past it hasn't always been like we're making the smartest decision for Ryan Day and the Buckeyes, but they have to this point, and if they do make the sound decisions, I think their talent probably wins out in the end. But
I think
it'll be
your
interesting
point.
To see.
I think your point there is what Ohio State fans would call: are they going to Michigan it, or are they not getting it? Like
I wasn't going to say Michigan, but yes,
but
are they going to Michigan it?
And I'd like to think people are smart enough to recognize Texas was doing the same thing. It wasn't just Michigan; it was, can your defense force Ohio State to second guess itself? If your defense can force Ohio State to second guess itself, that second guess is probably going to be a bad guess. There's a reason it was your second guess.
They didn't move the ball well against Penn State either earlier in the year as well.
And I would very much think that Notre Dame's defense is in line with those more than it is others. So we are, okay, so it's Notre Dame's pass defense. Assume it can hold up. Notre Dame's rushing game, can it survive this offensive line? And can Notre Dame make Ohio State hesitate long enough that Ohio State's hesitation proves as costly as it has in the past?
That sounds good to me, yeah.
I should point out, now I took that Quinshon Judkins anytime touchdown there. It's also, Notre Dame's going to give up 4 and 5 and 6 yard rushes. Notre Dame's rushing success rate on defense has only been middling. They just do great at removing explosives. That is also why in our covers free contest to beat the experts, I took over 60.5 rushing yards of Quinshon Judkins. And yes, Andrew, it says beat the experts and your photo is up there. They're saying nice things about us.
Terrible photo, by the way. Quick story about this photo. This was taken at one of our conferences a few years ago, and they were like, oh yeah, wake up first thing in the morning and take a headshot. And we were just like, okay, headshots, I guess, right now. And apparently some people have felt that this beautiful picture is worthy.
Are you wearing the same hat right now?
No, that's actually a Jays hat, so we don't have to get into that right now.
But everybody, this is a free contest. The winner gets a $500 Amazon gift card. Top 3 places pay. It is free. No reason not to join. The website is freeplay.covers.com. That is freeplay.covers.com. There are 8 bets in that contest. The one that could be most indicative of all the things we were just discussing, the one that could really show the game state is the Will Howard passing yards over under. On the contest, it's 245.5. I debated where I wanted to go with it.
I didn't. I'll preface this by saying, yes, I did debate it a little because I love Jeremiah Smith so much, and I think he is such an excellent football player that he can destroy game plans. Like, he can just be like, hey, I'm going to be the best player on the field tonight and throw everything out of the window. That is also on the table. I hope everybody is aware of that. That's how good he is. But against good pass defenses, we have seen Will Howard struggle. And like I said, people are going to call me a hater. So I ended up going with the under in the contest. I'm also going to make Will Howard. I found under 247.5 at Bet365. That's my first best bet of tonight's show. Like I said, credit Will Howard. He's done well at times this season, but he just makes you like, what the hell are you doing every now and then? You're like, why did you make this pass? And it happens far too often, and you can't be doing that against a Notre Dame defense that is this good, that leads, that is 5th in the nation in takeaways per game. The only good passing game you can say he had against a good pass defense was against Tennessee in the first round. They, I believe, ranked 5th in EPA per dropback this season, something like that. But the thing about Tennessee's defense, as opposed to these other ones, that is predicated on their front 7 creating pressure and making things easier on their back end. Like that, Tennessee was all about the front end, and we knew that secondary had some issues, and it makes sense that Jeremiah Smith was able to burn those guys. Unlike the better defenses that he's gone against, Will Howard, 16 for 24 for 182 yards against Penn State. 22 for 26, very efficient, but for just 201 yards against Indiana. 19 for 33 for 175 yards against Michigan. And if you take away that ridiculous 75-yard screen pass at the end of the first half against Texas, which, sure, we'll say that Texas played even soft defense and gave up 20 yards. Well, 30 yards even. That's 245. And take away it completely, it's 215. Notre Dame is the best pass defense they have seen all season. They can create pressure from exotic blitzes. They can man up on the outside. We've talked about this a lot. Under 247.5. This is, if he proves me wrong, if he goes over this number, it means that Ohio State wins this game big, I think. And then I'm having a pretty sad night when it comes to my bets, I think. But otherwise, that's just not what we've seen on the field with him to this point. It would be a shock to me, and I would give him his flowers and congratulations, but that's not what I've seen to this point.
The only other way he goes over it is if, like, Notre Dame blocks a punt for a touchdown and gets a pick 6 for a touchdown, and now Ohio State has to get weird. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but game states that they get Will Howard over 250 passing yards, give or take. It's Ohio State by a lot, or Notre Dame with absolute chaos turns this into an entertaining evening.
Yeah.
We should slow down. Darren is trying to go beat the experts, and we don't want Darren to Darren, we're just trying to help you out. I've mentioned the Quinshon Junkins. That's one of them. We mentioned Will Howard. That's another one of them. We already discussed spread and total. We've gone through most of that contest already, and we're going to get beat because we've told everybody our positions.
Right? I know. I might as well just give out my tiebreaker number right now.
48.
You went 40. Wow, you went big. It was completions, not attempts, right?
I thought it was attempts.
Oh, now someone in the chat, tell us if it's completions or attempts, please.
We'll have to look at that. Please, somebody in the chat, please let us know. Anyway, we do have, let's see here, five more bets to rattle through today. And I'm leaving this off with oh, nope, shoot, it was completion.
38. I said 38, and I said 38 completions.
Wow, we really had 70 as an option for number of completions in this football game. Okay. Anyway, folks, that is freeplay.covers.com. I am going to fire off my second bet of today. It plays into a lot of what we're discussing. It is an aggressive number. I'm getting Riley Leonard to not throw a touchdown at plus 170. I expect Notre Dame to shorten this game. I expect Notre Dame to struggle to throw the ball because it's Notre Dame. It hasn't thrown the ball all that well all season. And like I mentioned earlier, the basic math of the spread and the total argues for a score of about 27-18. If Notre Dame is scoring only twice, I'm not expecting Riley Leonard to get one of them. They have 44 rushing touchdowns this year compared to 22 passing. This offense lives and dies by its ground game, and that ground game should be emphasized against the Ohio State defense, particularly when trying to shorten this game. And once close to the goal line, I think it's more likely Notre Dame keeps the ball, Riley Leonard or Jeremiah Love, than he throws the ball. So for me to get this at plus 170, especially when I also have that anytime touchdown from earlier in the week at plus money, I believe that was at, keep scrolling, plus 140. I am set up very nicely for a quality payday. If Riley Leonard just runs the ball in himself, I can basically cash 2 bets.
Yeah. Once again, going with our game script kind of bet there. Like, this isn't a anti Notre Dame bet. It is kind of just a game script bet. I've got another one of those, and my best bet here, I'm going to go with Bo Collins over 11.5 receiving yards. Shout out to my guy, Jared Hockman. We were talking about this earlier today, and we're like, is he healthy? It says he's good to go. He's dealt with some calf stuff and some illness stuff, and his numbers have kind of dipped recently because of it. But he's good to go, apparently. And the first 11 games of the season, he was one of the Irish's best receivers, 34 receptions for 427 yards, 12.6 yards per reception. So his average reception is bigger than this number, which I like to begin with. But once again, back to the game script, I think despite that, yes, Notre Dame has to be effective on the ground in this game. If they want to win the game, they have to control the clock. Riley Leonard has to prove that that Ohio State has to respect his arm just at least a little bit in this. He has to make some throws. They have to respect him a little bit in this one. So I believe having Collins back and healthy is a big help in that sense. He went over this number in 11 of 13 games. Basically, all of the games where he was actually seeing action, he went over this number. Like I said, he can go over this number in one catch tonight. I think that Leonard is happy to have him healthy with him, and now Faison going too. Like, he actually has multiple guys on the outside that he can rely on, so that helps the Irish as well in that sense. Over 11.5 receiving yards for Bo Collins.
He is, I almost want to say inarguably, the most physically gifted Notre Dame receiver. Jaden Greathouse and Jordan Faison are better in space. They're shiftier. But if you're talking about, hey, I'm going to put the ball up, Bo Collins is Notre Dame's best hope at going up and getting a 15-yard catch among the receivers. And that alone would cash your over. I like that thought. I am going to kind of join you with the Notre Dame passing game here. I think this number has become deflated by injury concern. I've got Jeremiah Love over 59.5 rushing plus receiving yards at plus 115 at Bet Rivers. Look, if he's fully healthy, is anybody going to doubt this even against Ohio State's defense? And in my head, I don't know if he's fully healthy, but I know he first suffered this knee injury against USC, had 20 days before Notre Dame played Indiana. Do you remember how he looked, I don't know, against an Indiana? Oh, yeah, he just went right by him. No, he aggravated this knee injury against Georgia. All reports are he did not make it any worse against Penn State. He looked pretty good against Penn State, but he's had 18 days now since that Georgia game. He's reportedly practicing without his brace. I think if Jeremiah Love was fully healthy, this number would be pushing 70. Instead, I'm getting it over 59.5 at plus money. For me, this is, again, a value bet of I'm seeing a number that has been improperly deflated. I will take that value.
There you go. And I've got one more value bet for you as well. I think this is a bit of a value. I'm doubling down on Travion Henderson in this game. I took him over 52.5 last week, but I've been looking at his we didn't have his alt lines out then. We've got his alt lines out now, and I'm taking 80 plus rushing yards for Henderson at plus 215 over at Bet365 now. For my money, Henderson is the better of the two backs. I know Judkins gets more of the headline stuff, but it's Henderson for me. He led the team in yards per carry, 7.3 yards per carry this season. Because they split so many carries this year, they're both pretty fresh. he's been bigger for them in their biggest games. He had 80 plus in both games against Oregon. He went for 80 against Tennessee as well. I believe he's done it 4 times in his last 10 games at plus 215. I think there's some value there. And like we said, this Irish defense, I believe it's 60th in success rate against the rush, because they are willing to give up those 4, 5, 6 yard runs. And Henderson is a guy that he's going to take those. He takes a 4, 5, 6 yard run and he can turn it into 7 to 10 and 12. And I think that's how we get to 80 here.
I lean Judkins, as I've made clear, but the premise stands. And frankly, if one of them is going to threaten a number like this quickly, it is Travion Henderson, because he's that much more of a big play back.
Notre Dame gave up both 80 yards to both Penn State backs in that orange,
especially in that first half. That first half, Penn State was having its way up front. I'm gonna give us one more bet here, and then we've got some housekeeping and some thanks and some yelling to close the show. This is again a value bet. It goes pretty directly counter to Travion Henderson, but I'm going to throw a 7-1 flyer out there. Riley Leonard to lead the game in rushing yards is plus 700 at Caesars. I think that's too big of a number. Like if he finds 130 yarder, he had one against Georgia. He had a pretty good one against Penn State. If he finds 130 yarder, this is entirely possible then, right? He then has another 9 carries for 40 yards total, and he's at 70 yards. That would put him in this running. 7-1 is just too big of a number for me not to take this as a little bit of a flyer to keep things interesting. Scrambling, he's going to keep moving. The question will become, how badly does he get sacked? He does pretty well at stepping. This is a flyer at 7-1. I think it's far too high. It should be closer to 4.5 or 5.
I'm not a big fan of the pizza bet lingo that goes around a lot in sports betting circles these days, but this feels like a nice little pizza bet for us.
This is a bet where, $20 would pay for a couple of bar tabs. This is a nice little throwaway 7-1. It's very, if he finds one seam, suddenly this play is on the move and something I will get to watch with joy. I do want to, we have a couple of comments here, and there's one that I'm a little, okay, first of all, Bobby agrees. Bobby's going to allow that 7-1. Appreciate it, Bobby. We have somebody here who I'm not even going to put the comment through, but saying that Ohio State has 13 red zone stops against teams better than Notre Dame. You know what? If you go look at the EPA rankings, you're right. Oregon's got a better offense. Indiana's got a better offense. Penn State's got Are you really going to tell me that you stopped Texas in the red zone is something to be proud of, or that Indiana or Penn State's offenses are that much better than Notre Dame's after what we just saw Notre Dame do? I think you are underselling Notre Dame a little bit with that. And I just want to push back there. I again want to note, Darren got his picks in. I'm curious how many completions Darren thought, because my 48, I'm feeling very foolish about that. And it's a tiebreaker. I'm going to sweep the other 8. It won't matter.
I think when it comes to those red zone stuff, there aren't many teams out there that are as physical as Notre Dame in that situation. You can make the case for Texas and Penn State a little bit, but this isn't about whether or not Ohio State can win. I think it's more about how Notre Dame can cover and how this line is a little too big. I think that's what it's the end game for us with this with these bets here.
We are getting to within an hour and a half of this game. Let's recap all of them, last week's and this week's. We're going to be quick. We're going to be a little quick. You lead off. You go ahead, and I can't, if I'm lost on the spreadsheet, you go ahead and lead us off.
I got him here. Okay. So we're on Notre Dame plus 9.5 and the under 23.5 in the first half. Those are both at Bet Rivers. We are going to hopefully kick the curse here again. We're in agreement on 2 bets. That is,
we took care of that. We
took care of that long ago.
Florida. Remember, this is the Florida Gator pod.
This is a Florida Gator pod. Shout out producer Jameson on the fly. Shout out producer Jameson on the final pod of the year. Thank you very much. Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love, anytime touchdown at plus 145. Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate over 3.5 receptions, plus 130. Ohio State running back Travion Henderson over 52.5 rushing yards, and now plus 80 plus rushing yards at plus 215. Adding to that, we're also going with Ohio State QB Will Howard to throw an interception at -115. Notre Dame wide receiver Bo Collins over 11.5 reception yards. And Ohio State quarterback Will Howard under 247.5 passing yards for the Natty title game. I'm so excited.
I am with you on that +9.5. I am with you on the first half under 23.5. I have a Riley Leonard anytime touchdown at plus money. I have a Riley Leonard not to throw a passing touchdown at even better plus money. Mitchell Evans under receiving yards, 34.5 to help shore up the offensive line. Aeneas Williams an anytime touchdown based on value of his play share has jumped. And same thought, over 24.5 receiving yards. Then I have also added Quinshon Judkins, anytime touchdown. You can get that around even money. It is because Notre Dame will not give up explosive plays. Jeremiah Love over 59.5 rushing plus receiving yards plus money. If he's healthy, this should be a no-brainer. And Riley Leonard to have the most rushing yards in the game at 7-1 is just such great value.
Love it.
Andrew, I think that about does it for us. You are the more charitable of the two of us. Would you like to thank anybody, including producer Jameson?
I'd like to thank everybody. First of all, thank you guys all so much for joining us all season long on College Football 134. You have made this a joy and a pleasure. And we, as much as Doug sits there and looks grumpy and gripes, he actually has fun on this as well. He'll never admit to actually liking me, but I know deep down he actually does. So thank you, Douglas. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, do all that for the Covers YouTube. Go to Spotify, go to iTunes, download. Please do all that because we love to be coming back and doing this all again with you again next year. And thank you, Doug. Thank you so much for making this what it was. You're a big part of this, and you're the heart and soul of this as well. So, hey, can't wait to watch this national championship game, and I can't wait to be talking NFL draft with you. Yeah,
well, Andrew, this is about to get awkward because
I know you hate it.
This close has been coming for a little while. You've expected some vitriol out of me for a week or two. We have coworkers who've been waiting for me to voice this frustration for 2 months. Go back to one of our August meetings planning this show, and our social team encouraged me to just get angry a lot. Mick, I hope you're watching as we end this season because like anybody, I like being right. I like being right in that I know how to pronounce Notre Dame or Notre Dame, not Notre Dame, like you do because you refuse to recognize one of those words as a French pronunciation and one of the other is an English pronunciation. Combining them makes no sense and sounds foolish.
Welcome to the English language, bud.
You're right. Learn the English language and stop speaking French. No matter how tonight goes, I was right to pick Ohio State as my national title bet in July while you took Utah and others took Georgia. I was right when I laughed at supposed sharp saying Notre Dame never shows up in these games. When the Irish went to Texas A&M as an underdog, I pointed out Notre Dame had a full month to scheme up its injured offensive line, had 10 days to do so before tonight, and was 6-6 outright as an underdog in the last 7 seasons. Now 8-6 outright as an underdog in the last 8 seasons. I was right when I said North Dakota State would stress Colorado because you and I could pass rush through that Buffalo's offensive line. I was right when I said Michigan couldn't finish quality possessions, when I said Tennessee's offense and Nico fail against quality defenses, and when I said, as you mentioned earlier, to take the over in the Orange Bowl and the under in the Cotton Bowl, despite the whole world arguing for the inverse of that. I was my most right when I said Notre Dame would murder Florida State. I believe the phrase was, do you want to see a murder? But I am not supposed to be as right as I am right now. I am not to be proven so right that my jabs at you are no longer my priority. You see, Notre Dame fans are one of the most miserable collections of people in the world. There was a reason the biggest Notre Dame podcast yesterday quoted me with my old Saturday afternoon mainstays. I hate people. And Tim O'Malley of Irish Illustrated, I'd argue you misquoted me. You really got to hang on that H, give a resigned pause before people to make it clear the dredges we are dealing with. I hate people. There was a reason my NBC farewell column from last January was headlined, "Farewell and remember, Notre Dame fans, this is supposed to be fun." Yet somehow, Notre Dame fans are the tolerable group tonight because Ohio State fans are incapable of enjoying anything in this entire world. I am right that this is supposed to be fun. You mentioned that's why we enjoy this. And here today, an Ohio State fan jumps in my text messages still saying the day of the national championship game, go Irish. Fire Ryan Day. She grew up in Ohio. What are we doing here? Why are you like this? This is supposed to be fun.
That's
if
extreme.
I am the one telling you that you are too miserable, you should recalibrate your every emotion. I am not a Notre Dame fan, but it was a lot of fun going to 2 playoff games with some of my oldest friends. That's why I have a bar tab open tonight to watch tonight's game. As much as I want to win my plus 1,200 ticket, that's the biggest bet of my entire life, I mostly want to have fun with some friends, and that is their common tie. That is why we watch sports. We're supposed to have fun. It is why we enjoy this show. We don't focus on gambling while talking about college football. That would be intolerable. We focus on college football while talking about gambling, and we have fun doing it. We give each other a hard time, and none of that is ever sincere. Absolutely not. No chance. Not at all, because we have fun with it. Ohio State fans, for the love of all that is a dotted I, have some fun. You are in the national title game, and you are a people bereft of joy. I hope you get what you so seek. I hope your self-fulfilling prophecy becomes a reality. If you cannot have fun, then the rest of us will have fun tonight without you. When I say I hate people, I mean I hate the joyless. Tonight, I hate Buckeyes fans. That is Andrew Caley. I am Douglas Farmer. The debut season of College Football 134 has concluded. 2025 willing, we will be back with College Football 136.